Good evening, I'm Mark Moffitt, running for City Council. I'd like to thank Straw and the Rowdy Center for putting this on. I'd like to thank the residents for taking their time to come out here. I'd like to thank the candidates that showed up here tonight for coming out and putting an event like this on. I think some of the questions that you're going to have, you will get some honest answers out of the people that are sitting here. Unfortunately, we're missing two, which might have prior engagements. I've been living here in St. Clair Shores for 19 years, been married for 18 of those years. I have 3 children. I do home remodeling, and I look forward to getting into the questions, because I know some of the questions are kind of being answered by some of the discussion that was already brought up by some of the ideas for the three previous running mates here. So, be happy to answer the questions.
Thank you.
Candidate Reese, we'll begin with you, and then we'll go from left to right. Our first question. What is the longest contract for any city service that you would vote for?
It depends obviously on the service and what service the contract would be for. It depends on obviously how long the project is, what the service is. If we need a company to do the service for a while, then obviously longer. If it's a service that's more seasonal or something, maybe a shorter one. Obviously, I don't believe in no big contract extensions. Too many of those were given to political donors, which, as Peter mentioned, is violation of the ethics policy. I would imagine for most contracts, 2-3 years would be sufficient. But like I said, it depends upon the services.
That would be you.
For me? I would say that it's 3 years is 3 years for the majority of the contracts. You do have the largest contract in the city, I believe it is the waste management. It is about a $12 million contract. That has been 5 years, and I think it is proper to be 5 years. There's a lot of capital that goes involved when you're obviously, not with waste management, but let's say you switch from waste management. You got a lot of capital goods that have to be, whether they have to buy more trucks and whatever, depreciate that type of equipment. I believe that contract would be the only contract that should be more than 3 years. I would accept a 5-year contract. That's what we have had in the past. Everything else, I believe, either the 1 or 2 or 3 years. Again, I referred to the engineering, AEW, a $1 million contract. I don't believe we have to go out to bid every year on a contract such as that. I think 3 years is more than enough time that allows someone to do the job, us to learn them, and gives them a sizable contract. So that would be 3 years. You get some of these other bids, such as landscaping, it gets probably 2 years, but the longest one would be 5 years for me, and that would only be the waste management. That would only be because of capital expenses that they have to endure, and everything else would be three or less. Professional services would be 3 years, and some of the ancillaries 1 to 2 years. Thank you.
Well, again, it does depend on the contract. If you're buying material, bulk material, you're going every year, seeing what the going rate is, you're going out there for that. 3 years is, AEW got brought up. A 3-year contract with something like that is fine to me. I don't believe, because you start getting a bid and everything every year, you're getting into a cost of bidding out too. And that cost does add up with, depending on what you are bidding out. We're looking at some of the professional services and trying to get into the different trade magazines and trying to bid that out. Then costs do add up, and it does put time onto the people that are working at City Hall to bid these out. Waste management, I think, was explained pretty well there. I do agree with that one. And thanks to Straw and the founding members there, that they did come down to our meeting and force some of the other members into changing their opinion to bid this out. I mean, this contract is a $400,000 savings a year. And after the last meeting there, we found out we're saving $52,000 more on the fuel surcharges. So we're up to $452,000 by bidding this out. So the bid process does work, and I do believe in it, and it just depends on what service you're looking for how many years to keep it going.
Well, it's going to sound like a broken record, because I think 3 to 5 years is going to be adequate for most. One thing I can tell you is 10, 15, 25 years is unacceptable. And we have contracts, different types of contracts, that have gone on now for decades. And that is unacceptable. You know, we could debate all day long about 3 and 5 years, 4 years, and I'd be happy if I lost that debate. But I'll tell you one thing, I will never approve a contract extension where a contract has not been bid out for 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years. That's it.
At this time, we're going to interrupt just for a second. It looks like there's some people in the back, standing room only. There are some seats available. So come up.
We got a couple of seats up front here.
I know nobody wants to sit in the front row, but better than standing.
I do.
Pete, we begin with you this time. I'm concerned about how job positions are created within the city. For example, DPW, code enforcement, deputy parks and rec, etc. What are your feelings about this, and how would you address this?
That's a very good question. Of course, I think we should always do an extensive search. I think there is something in the charter that states how somebody is not supposed to leave public office and go into a position with the city. I'll have to tell you, I've checked with the Attorney General of the state of Michigan on that ordinance, on that portion of the charter. It was shared to me that it seemed like the spirit of the charter meant that somebody should not be able to move from a position to a position, from an elected official to a paid position. Unfortunately, attorneys are wordsmiths, and they can pick apart things and make things available. I think we should do extensive searches, national searches, especially for city managers, department heads. Especially nowadays, there's a lot of very qualified people out there that I think would do a fantastic job. I do not think that, although there's a lot of great people in this city, I'm sure that the smartest people don't all live in St. Clair Shores. And it seems like every department head that has obtained a position as of late has come from within different areas of the city. I would like to see extensive searches. Thank you.
Well, we're going after up 2 positions. You know, something to be honest with you, when it smells, it sinks. And when it comes down to it, this is why government gets a bad name. Is when you take people and put their friends into positions that either they might be qualified for or they might not be. That's not up to me, but it just smells. And unfortunately, you get people gets moved into positions that are known because of other people. So to my feelings is, you got to go out there and search and just do the right thing. I mean, you can't take this guy that you know, your buddy, and put him in a job. That's just wrong.